Y'all all right? All right. I'm going to first connect with you in the only way that my soul knows how, on a soul level. I wish I knew how it would feel to be free. I wish I could break all the chains holding me. I wish I could say all I'm longing to say. I'd say it loud, say it clear, for the whole round world to hear. Those words were written by lyricist Dick Dallas, with music by jazz musician Billy Taylor. Most notably, it was popularized by Nina Simone in 1967 and became an anthem for the civil rights movement. Please ruminate on those words in our time together. Even before I knew what it really meant, I've been using my voice for liberation. My mom says I've been singing since before I could talk. My earliest memories include begging to sing in church. I'd pick a familiar hymn, usually the exact same one. What can wash away my sin? Nothing but the blood of Jesus. If you were raised in the black church, you'll know. I'd hop up to the mic, I'd sing a cappella, sometimes with the help of our church pianist Helen. At such a young age, I didn't really understand what was being taught in church. I just knew that my goal was to feel the Spirit. I came to understand that the only time I ever felt otherworldly was when I was singing. Even surrounded by the voices of the entire congregation, that too felt like freedom. I was born in a rural, predominantly white Kentucky farm town in the 90s, yet social norms were nearly non-existent behind the walls of my home. My mom, the dictionary definition of resilience, was the head of our household. At the time, I didn't realize it was the world outside of our home that called for her to build those walls. She built them around her own heart and around my sister and I as a result. My mother had been taught from her mother before her that assimilation was protection, and she carried on from there. She thought the shield that she had created for us at home saved us from the harshness of the world. Lay low, blend in, be seen, not heard. But when I looked at our life, I saw that we lived comfortably in an upper, middle class, two-parent, loving, functioning home. That's a privilege. Reflecting on that, I can see that it made the circumstances of my upbringing both fortunate and unfortunate. Fortunately, this meant that I have ever only known divides by staring across a fissure and plotting how I was going to get to the other side. I was never taught to take no for an answer. It never occurred to me that there would be people intentionally placing obstacles in my path. Unfortunately, this meant that I was unaware of the weight of my blackness and my gender outside of my walls of safety. I remember seeing and feeling the things that othered me in front of my white peers. The color of my skin, the texture of my hair, the whispers, the comments. I spent the next several years feeling like an outsider. As a coping mechanism, I created a stage persona of myself. Kiana Benhoff, no longer. Kiana Dell is here. She is fearless, she has all the accolades, and she has a perfect voice. I played a character to move throughout the world because I had just become acutely aware of my place within it. My mom's notes on assimilation danced in the back of my head, but I've always yearned to be seen and heard. With the help of my parents, I started to study music seriously. Piano and vocal lessons by age 7, singing classically at age 12, performing on stage by age 13. I was learning the proper breathing techniques, how to train and condition my diaphragm, how to actively listen. I was training my voice, technically, but unbeknownst to little me, I was training to use my voice as a tool for liberation. I loved any and every excuse to be in front of a crowd, and I even remember the first time I felt stage fright. It didn't come naturally to me. Again, it was a learned othering that made me feel further from myself. What felt instinctual was the feeling I felt when I was singing. Being lost in the flow state outweighed everything, and using my voice made me invincible. And that's not a coincidence, and it's not a talent reserved for people who are vocally gifted. Using our voices is a form of somatic healing, or somatic experiencing. The word somatic comes from the Greek prefix soma, meaning body. This comes from Dr. Peter Levine's concept of healing trauma called somatic experiencing. Defining it in the most basic way, Levine discovered that somatic experiencing includes techniques that help us identify how the body heals itself through a mind-body connection that combines our emotional and our physical selves. We typically use pretty poetic words to describe how our emotions feel in our bodies, right? A lump in our throat when we're crying, butterflies in our stomach when we're excited, fire in our chests when we're angry. But what if those feelings could identify and help us emotionally regulate in the moment? According to Somatic Experiencing International, this technique is primarily used to address trauma and stress-related disorders like PTSD. But we can pull somatic techniques in our mindfulness practice. One of those being a technique called sensory engagement, which is just what it sounds like, engaging our 5 senses. Think about the very first way that we express our needs as babies, through cooing and crying. We haven't yet grasped the concept of language. We haven't yet gotten a handle on how to understand or communicate our emotions, but we learn quickly that when we verbalize, breathing deeply, feeling that vibration in our throats, our needs are met. In a study on the neurobiology of human crying, Dr. Lauren M. Bilsma shows us that our brains quickly form that pathway. Before we even form so much as a coo, we have to get a handle on our life force, our breath. So let's master our life force. I'll show you a technique I use with my vocal students that can prepare you for your next public address, your next performance, your next trip to the crowded grocery store. First, we'll breathe in through the nose and out through the mouth. One more for good measure, in through the nose and out through the mouth. And then with my students, I give that a pulse. When singing, counting your phrases is key. So we'll breathe in, 2, 3, 4, and out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This requires you to be really present in your body, ensuring that you're taking in enough air and releasing it in a manner that's slow and controlled. This is a technique I'll use when anxious or overwhelmed to remind my brain who's in control. As a vocalist and as a meditator, breathing techniques are your foundation. Our voices can be tools for healing, for self-regulating, for being fully present in the moment by returning back to your most primal instinct. This is a little out of the box for our format. They were skeptical to let me do this, but I'd like to use some ancestral wisdom to make music together in a call and response activity. Call and response is an African tradition, a big pillar in jazz, and it serves as a central feature in storytelling, work songs, and community gatherings. The leader will call out a phrase, the group responds, sometimes in repetition or an answer. It's a musical and social tool we still hear today, most commonly in gospel music, but more than a rhetorical or a musical device, call and response is at its core human connection. So let's try it together. We're going to use an affirmation from John Baptiste's Stay Human project. Please repeat after me. I feel good. I feel free. I feel fine just being me. I feel good today. Feel so good today. Beautiful, beautiful. Sit in that, take a breath, and remember to feel free just being you. Now, I want to go back to Miss Nina Simone's call for freedom to see if you reflect on it differently than you did before our conversation. Pushing through some nerves, I'll sing it a cappella in honor of my inner child. Well, I wish I could be like a bird in the sky. How sweet it would be if I found I could fly. Oh, I'd soar to the sun and look down at the sea. Then you'd sing, 'cause I know, yeah. Then I'd sing, 'cause I know how it feels to be free. Liberation. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Liberation, to me as a black woman, can often feel difficult within the confines of our country's societal barriers. However, the question is, how would it feel to be free? I can't tell you what freedom looks like for you, but I create, call for, carve out freedom for myself in rooms like this very one. Anytime you witness me singing, anytime you sing with me, you're witnessing my own call for freedom like my ancestors before me. So if you take anything at all away from this, take away using your voice. Take away using your life force. Advocate for yourself. Advocate for your loved ones. Advocate for those less fortunate than you. Take a deep breath. Center yourself and call. Thank you.